He laughed in open court. Not a quiet chuckle, not a nervous release. An arrogant, ringing laugh that bounced off wood-paneled walls and turned heads like a slap. It was the kind of laugh that said, "I own this room. I own this story. I own you." "Your Honor," the man said, wiping an imaginary tear from the corner of his eye. "I'm sorry, I can't take it seriously. She wants spousal support. Based on what? Her little work." A few people in the gallery tittered. The judge's gavel didn't come down, but the silence that followed felt heavier than any strike. Across the aisle, Elena Whitmore stood alone at the respondents' table. No suit jacket tailored by a prestige brand, no entourage, no attorney leaning in to whisper strategy. Just a simple navy dress, a neat stack of papers, and a face that refused to crumble. If you looked at her quickly, you'd assume she was already defeated. Grant Whitmore looked at her like she was a faded photograph he couldn't wait to throw away. Perfect hair, perfect cufflinks, perfect confidence. At his side, a high-powered attorney with a gold pen and a smile sharpened to a blade. Grant's lawyer cleared his throat. "Your Honor, my client's position is straightforward. Mr. Whitmore built Whitmore Logistics from the ground up. Mrs. Whitmore did not contribute financially. She has no meaningful income. My client is prepared to be generous, but he will not be exploited." Grant turned slightly, just enough to let Elena see the corner of his mouth curl. "Tell them what you do, Elena. Tell them your job." Elena didn't flinch. She lifted her eyes, calm as still water. "I work," she said. Grant laughed again, louder. "Oh, that's priceless." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Whitmore, control yourself." Grant spread his hands like a man forced to entertain a child's fantasy. "Of course, Your Honor. It's hard to pretend her little hobby is comparable to what I've built." The courtroom air tightened. Elena's fingers pressed gently into the edge of her paperwork. She wasn't shaking, she wasn't crying, but the betrayal behind her eyes was so concentrated it looked like steel. And that was the first mistake Grant made that day, thinking her silence meant weakness. Before we step deeper into this courtroom, take 1 second and support the channel. Tap like if you enjoy intense stories where the truth finally wins, and subscribe so you don't miss the next case that turns everything upside down. Because what Grant Whitmore didn't know, what he couldn't imagine, was that Elena's little work had a name, a company, a board, a legal department, and by the time this hearing ended, that company would own his. The judge adjusted her glasses. "Mrs. Whitmore, you're representing yourself today." Elena's voice didn't waver. "For now, Your Honor." Grant's attorney glanced at Elena's papers and smirked. "That's ambitious." Grant leaned back in his chair as if the outcome was already printed. "Let's get this over with." The judge sighed once, the sound of someone who'd seen too many divorces turn into public executions. "Very well. Counsel, proceed." Grant's lawyer stood. "We call Mr. Grant Whitmore." Grant rose like a king approaching his throne, straightened his jacket and took the stand. He placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth and sat down. And then he looked directly at Elena and said, for everyone to hear, "This is where you learn what happens when you marry above your station." Elena's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. The judge raised an eyebrow. "Mr. Whitmore, answer the questions, spare us the commentary." Grant's smile stayed. "Yes, Your Honor." His attorney began with the story Grant wanted told. The self-made man, the ungrateful wife, the burden of a marriage that had held him back. The attorney's voice was smooth, rehearsed, confident. "How much did your company earn last year, Mr. Whitmore?" $87 million in revenue, Grant said, as if reciting a prayer. "And Mrs. Whitmore's income?" Grant's lips twitched. "If you call it income." Elena felt every eye in the room pivot toward her, hungry for humiliation. "She does turn freelance," Grant continued. "A few spreadsheets, some analysis. She calls herself a consultant. It's adorable." The word adorable landed like a boot on a throat. The judge's pen paused. "Mrs. Whitmore, do you dispute that characterization?" Elena took a breath. "I dispute the intent behind it." Grant laughed softly. "Intent? Elena, you wouldn't survive 1 week in my world." Elena held his gaze. "You'd be surprised." Grant leaned toward the microphone. "No, I wouldn't, because I know what you are." He didn't say wife, he didn't say partner. He said a dependent. And Elena, alone at that table, simply opened her folder and turned to the first page, like she had been waiting for him to say exactly that. To understand why Grant's laughter cut so deep, You had to understand what came before the courtroom, what happened behind closed doors, where the world couldn't see the small, daily humiliations that trained Elena to swallow pain quietly. Elena met Grant Whitmore at a charity gala, one of those glittering nights where money pretends to be kindness. He was magnetic, confident, charming, generous with compliments that felt like sunlight. He asked her what she did, and Elena answered honestly. "I build systems," she said. "I help companies see what they're missing." Grant's smile widened, but not with interest, with amusement. "So you're an assistant?" Elena corrected him politely. "Not exactly." Grant waved it away. "You're smart, that's cute." At the time, she told herself it was nerves. A man used to being the loudest person in a room. She didn't want to judge him by one comment. She judged him by the next 100. He loved telling people she was between things. He loved introducing her as "my Elena, she keeps busy." He loved the way strangers nodded and assumed she was lucky to be chosen. And Elena didn't argue. Not because she believed him, because she was hiding something. When Elena said she built systems, she meant it. She had spent years in the quiet corners of the business world, where real power rarely posed for cameras. She learned how companies bled money without realizing it, how bad contracts buried profits, how arrogant executives overpaid for growth while ignoring the foundation. She became dangerous to the right people. So she formed Hartwell Meridian, a private consulting firm with no public website and no flashy marketing. Her clients came through referrals, discreet, grateful, sometimes terrified. They paid in retainers large enough to change a life. But Elena kept her name off paper wherever she could. She used holding entities, trusts, a structure that made her invisible to casual searches, not because she was doing anything illegal, because she was doing something strategic. She'd grown up watching her father lose everything to a partner who smiled while stealing. She learned early, the moment people know you have something, they decide they deserve it. So when she married Grant, she married him with a secret that would have made him see her differently. And Elena didn't want to be seen as a prize to be won. She wanted to be loved. Grant proposed quickly, grandly, in front of cameras. "You'll never have to worry again," he promised. Elena smiled and said yes. And the next day, Grant's attorneys slid a prenuptial agreement across a polished table. "It's standard," Grant said casually. "You don't have anything to protect, so it won't matter." Elena read every page. She noticed the traps, clauses about marital contribution, wording that framed her as financially insignificant, provisions that treated her labor like decoration. Grant watched her read, amused. "Elena, don't make this complicated, it's just paperwork." She looked up. "It's not just paperwork, it's our future." Grant's eyes cooled. "No, it's my future and you're joining it." Elena signed, not because she didn't understand, because she did. She signed because her hidden structure was older than their marriage, because she knew her work would never be listed on a paycheck that could be subpoenaed, because she believed, foolishly, that even if Grant ever tried to hurt her, she would never let it come to this. Then came the slow shift. Grant started coming home late. He started taking calls in the driveway. He started holding his phone like it was a secret more precious than his vows. Helena asked once gently, "Is there someone else?" Grant laughed. "You think someone would risk my reputation for a fling? Elena, you watch too many dramas." 2 weeks later, Elena saw the lipstick stain on his collar. He didn't deny it. He blamed her. "You stopped trying," he said. "You stopped being interesting. You're always buried in your little projects." "My work matters," Elena said quietly. Grant's mouth curved. "To who? Certainly not to us." That was the night Elena realized something terrifying. Grant didn't just underestimate her, he resented her. And resentment, when it grows inside a man like Grant Whitmore, doesn't stay quiet. It demands an audience. So he chose the loudest stage he could find. Court. The papers arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by a man in a gray suit who couldn't meet Elena's eyes. Grant wasn't home. He'd left early after a fight the night before that ended with him saying, "I can't wait to be free." Elena signed for the envelope with steady hands and walked into the kitchen like a person carrying something explosive. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Requests: sole ownership of primary residence, full control of shared accounts, limitation of spousal support, and like a knife slipped between ribs, primary custody of their 8-year-old son, Noah. Elena's breath stopped. She read the custody paragraph twice, hoping her eyes were lying. Grant wanted Noah. Not because he was a devoted father, because Noah was leverage. Elena called Grant, he didn't answer. She called again, voicemail. The third time, he picked up with a voice full of irritation, like she'd interrupted something important. "What?" "You filed for custody," Elena said. Grant chuckled. "Of course I did. Noah is not a bargaining chip. He's my son," Grant snapped, "and I can give him a real life, not whatever this is. You're always working." Elena's voice sharpened. "You're always cheating." A pause, then colder. "Careful, accusations without proof make you look unstable." Elena gripped the phone until her knuckles paled. "Why are you doing this?" Grant's answer was almost cheerful. "Because it's time you learn your place." He hung up. That afternoon, Elena went to a family law office in town, asked for a consultation, and was told the retainer would be $30,000. She could pay it easily. But her name, her accounts, her structure, the moment she paid from the wrong place, the secrecy she'd built for years would crack. And if Grant discovered the truth too early, he would do what he always did. He would grab it. He would twist it. He would turn her own power into evidence that she'd deceived him. So Elena did what she'd always done. She went quiet. She gathered documents, bank statements, emails, photos, calendar logs of Grant's late nights, a screenshot Noah had accidentally taken of Grant's phone when a message popped up. "Can't wait to see you again, baby." Elena didn't cry when she found it. She didn't scream. She took a deep breath and saved it to a folder labeled Court. 2 days before the hearing, Grant came home with a smugness that made the air feel contaminated. "You got served?" he asked, leaning against the doorway. Elena didn't answer. Grant smiled. "I talked to my attorney. He says this will be quick. The judge will see you have no resources, no meaningful income. It's almost sad." Elena finally looked at him. "Why are you trying to destroy me?" Grant's eyes flicked to the kitchen table, where Noah's homework sat neatly stacked. "Destroy you, Elena? You're doing that yourself. You don't even have a lawyer." "I can get one." Grant laughed. "With what money? Your little consulting? Please, you're not built for this." Elena stood calm. "I'm built for more than you think." Grant took a step closer, voice low and sharp. "Let me make it simple. Sign the settlement. You walk away with a small check. You stop embarrassing yourself. And maybe I let you see Noah whenever it's convenient." Elena's heart pounded, but her voice stayed even. "No." Grant's jaw clenched. "Then I'll bury you." On the morning of court, Grant arrived in a tailored suit with his attorney and a woman on his arm. His assistant, Chloe Marin, the same woman who'd been appearing in his company photos a little too often. Chloe smiled at Elena like she was already gone. Grant leaned in as they passed. "Try not to cry in front of the judge," he whispered. "It's unattractive." Elena didn't respond. She walked into the courtroom alone. And when Grant laughed at her work in front of everyone, he believed he was watching the final act. He didn't realize he was watching the opening scene of his own downfall. The judge, Honorable Judge Marissa Klein, had the kind of face that didn't belong to anyone's side. She looked tired, but not soft. She looked like she'd seen charm turn into cruelty 1,000 times and stopped being impressed. Grant's attorney began parading facts like trophies. Grant's earnings, Grant's assets, Grant's public reputation. He used words like provider and stability and best interest, as if repetition could turn manipulation into truth. Elena sat still, taking notes. Grant testified with the confidence of a man who'd never been forced to answer to anyone. "Tell the court about Mrs. Whitmore's contributions to the marriage," his attorney prompted. Grant shrugged dramatically. "She kept the house, and when she felt like it, she did some volunteering. She had side projects." Elena's jaw tightened. "And your child Noah," the attorney continued, "who has been the primary caregiver." Grant smiled without warmth. "I have." The lie hung in the air. Elena's hand paused over her notes. Grant continued, "Elena is distracted, always on her laptop, always working. Noah needs structure, he needs consistency, he needs a parent with real responsibilities." Elena looked up. "You're in hotels 3 nights a week," she said. Grant turned to her, delighted. "Objection, Your Honor, see? Emotional outbursts." Judge Klein raised a hand. "Mrs. Whitmore, you'll have your opportunity to question him. Continue, counsel." Grant's attorney nodded, satisfied, and guided Grant toward the part Elena had been dreading. Finances. "Mr. Whitmore, can you explain why you're requesting limitation of spousal support?" Grant leaned toward the microphone. Because she doesn't deserve it. She didn't sacrifice anything for me. She didn't support my growth. She benefited from my lifestyle. Elena could hear the whispers behind her. He's right, someone murmured. She looks like she doesn't even belong. Grant's attorney pushed the knife in deeper. And Mrs. Whitmore's work, what is it exactly? Grant's smile widened. She calls it analysis. She says she helps companies, but she's never brought home real money. It's cute, like a child selling lemonade. A few laughs quickly smothered. Judge Klein's eyes narrowed. Mr. Whitmore, enough. Grant held up his hands. I'm just being honest. The attorney turned slightly toward Elena, voice dripping with courtesy. Mrs. Whitmore, would you like to tell the court about your employment and income? Elena stood. The room went still, not because they respected her, but because they expected her to stumble. I provide strategic operations consulting, she said. I work with companies to fix inefficiencies, restructure contracts, and improve profitability. Grant scoffed audibly. Elena didn't glance at him. My income varies by contract. Grant's attorney smiled as if she'd walked into a trap. So you have no steady salary. I have retained clients. No pay stubs. I have invoices. Grant's attorney spread his hands. Your Honor, we have conducted discovery. Mrs. Whitmore has disclosed minimal income. She is either unemployed or hiding funds. Grant's eyes lit up at the word hiding. That was the angle he wanted. Judge Klein turned to Elena. Mrs. Whitmore, the court requires transparency. If you have income or assets, you must disclose them. Elena nodded. I understand. Grant leaned back, whispering to Chloe with a grin that said she's done. Judge Klein continued. Now regarding custody, Mr. Whitmore, you claim you've been primary caregiver. Explain. Grant straightened. I make time. I have a nanny, a driver. Elena's voice cut in, controlled but fierce. You have employees. Grant's smile sharpened. I have resources, something you don't. Judge Klein's gavel tapped once. Enough. Mrs. Whitmore, you will question the witness. Proceed. Elena stepped forward. She held her papers like they weighed nothing. Mr. Whitmore, she began, how many nights did you read Noah a bedtime story last month? Grant blinked. That's... Answer, Judge Klein said. Grant recovered quickly. I don't count. Elena nodded. How many nights were you in the house after 9 p.m. last month? Grant's jaw tightened. I run a company. Elena flipped a page. So you can't answer. Grant leaned toward the microphone. Elena, don't do this. You'll embarrass yourself. Elena looked at him calmly. Not today. And then she held up a printed screenshot. Grant's eyes flickered just for a second, because he recognized it. And for the first time, the smile on his face faltered. Elena didn't wave the screenshot like a weapon. She placed it on the witness stand like a fact that didn't care how powerful he thought he was. Judge Klein peered over her glasses. What is that, Mrs. Whitmore? Elena's voice stayed steady. A message that appeared on Mr. Whitmore's phone, sent at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday when he told me he was on a business trip. Grant's attorney sprang up. Objection, authentication, hearsay, relevance. Judge Klein lifted a hand. Mrs. Whitmore, can you authenticate this? Elena nodded. My son took the screenshot accidentally while playing a game on his father's phone. The photo metadata is attached. The number is linked to Ms. Chloe Marin. The courtroom shifted. Chloe's smile vanished like a light turned off. Grant's face tightened. This is pathetic, he muttered. Judge Klein looked at Chloe, then back to Grant. Mr. Whitmore, is Ms. Marin your employee? Grant forced a laugh. Yes? And your romantic partner? Grant's attorney protested again. Your Honor? Judge Klein cut him off. This goes to credibility and the stability arguments you've introduced. Answer. Grant's eyes locked onto Elena. In them was a warning. Don't. He lied anyway. No. Elena nodded slowly as if she expected that. Then why did she write, can't wait to see you again, baby? Chloe's cheeks burned red. She looked down. Grant's attorney snapped, Mrs. Whitmore, you are attempting to turn this into a morality play. Elena kept her focus on the judge. He asked for custody, claiming I'm unstable. He lied about where he was. He lied about who he's with. Judge Klein's pen scratched a note. Mr. Whitmore, the court will not appreciate misrepresentation. Grant leaned forward, voice hard. Fine, we had an affair. Happy? It doesn't change that she can't support Noah. The admission hit the courtroom like a sudden slap. Gasps, whispers. A few heads shook. Elena's chest tightened, but she didn't show it. So you admit you lied? Grant shrugged. People lie to avoid drama. Elena's eyes narrowed. You created drama, then you filed for custody to punish me. Grant's attorney rose, agitated. Your Honor, this line is emotional and speculative. Judge Klein's gaze stayed on Grant. Answer the question. Grant's jaw clenched. I filed because she's not fit. Elena flipped another page. Then explain why you wired $75,000 from a shared account to Ms. Marin 2 months ago. Grant's attorney stiffened. We have not seen... Elena slid a bank statement forward. It's our account, I have access. Grant's eyes flashed panic, quick and ugly. That was business. Elena's voice sharpened. Business is what you call cheating now? A few suppressed laughs rippled through the gallery, this time not at Elena. Grant's face reddened. He leaned toward the microphone. You think you're clever. You think you can outplay me with scraps of paper. Elena, you're nothing without me. Elena's throat tightened, but she didn't look away. Then why are you so afraid of me? Grant's attorney snapped, Objection. Judge Klein ignored him. She looked at Grant, then Elena. Mrs. Whitmore, do you have counsel? Elena paused. Not yet. Grant's laugh returned, brittle. Because she can't afford one. Elena's eyes lowered to her folder. Inside, beneath the bank statements and screenshots and calendars, was a sealed envelope. A single letter on corporate letterhead. She could feel its weight like a heartbeat. Judge Klein spoke again. Mrs. Whitmore, this case involves complex financial questions. The court recommends representation. Grant leaned back, triumphant. She'll take the settlement. Elena lifted her chin. No. Grant's smile hardened. Then you'll lose. Elena looked at the sealed envelope again. Not yet, she told herself. Not until the moment that will break him. And somewhere in the hall outside the courtroom, a pair of heels clicked against the floor, measured, confident, approaching. If you're still here, stay with this story, because from this point forward, every lie starts collapsing. And if you want more courtroom dramas where the person everyone underestimated flips the entire case, hit like and subscribe right now. It helps more than you think, and it keeps these stories coming. The courtroom doors opened. A woman stepped in wearing a charcoal suit that looked like it had been cut from authority itself. She moved with the calm of someone who knew exactly what she was about to do and how many people would try to stop her. She didn't glance at the gallery. She didn't acknowledge Grant's smirk. She walked straight to Elena. Elena turned slightly, and for the first time all day, something like relief flickered across her face. The woman addressed the judge. Your Honor, Olivia Kane for Mrs. Elena Whitmore. Grant's attorney froze. Excuse me? Judge Klein's eyebrows rose. Ms. Kane, as in Kane and Rowe. Olivia Kane nodded once. Yes, Your Honor. A murmur surged through the room. Kane and Rowe was the kind of firm corporations feared and billionaires hired when they were desperate. Grant's smile cracked. This is a joke. Grant's attorney rose fast. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Mrs. Whitmore has represented herself for weeks. We have had no notice. Olivia's voice was calm, clipped, lethal. We entered our appearance the moment my client authorized it. Grant turned to Elena, eyes narrowing. Where did you get money for that? Elena met his gaze. From my work. Grant laughed, but it sounded wrong now. Too loud, too forced. Your Honor, she's hiding assets. This proves it. Olivia didn't even look at him. Or it proves Mr. Whitmore's assumptions were convenient, not correct. Judge Klein studied Elena. Mrs. Whitmore, why did you proceed without counsel until now? Elena's voice was quiet. I needed him to show the court who he really is. Grant's jaw clenched. Judge Klein exhaled, then nodded. Ms. Kane, you may proceed, but I will not tolerate theatrics. Olivia's mouth curved slightly. Understood, Your Honor. Grant's attorney tried to regain control. Your Honor, we request a continuance to evaluate this new counsel and... Olivia stepped forward. Denied, we're ready. Judge Klein blinked. That is not your decision. Olivia nodded once, respectful. Of course, I'm simply informing the court we're prepared to proceed today with or without Mr. Whitmore's comfort. Grant's attorney swallowed. Your Honor, this is prejudicial. Judge Klein considered, then looked at Grant. Mr. Whitmore, you insisted on moving quickly. The court will proceed. Grant's face tightened as if the air had become thinner. He leaned toward his attorney. Who is she? Why is she here? His attorney whispered back. I don't know. Olivia turned toward Grant, her expression calm but sharpened by purpose. Mr. Whitmore, I'll keep this simple. You told this court Mrs. Whitmore has no meaningful income, that her work is a hobby, that she's dependent. Grant forced a grin. Because it's true. Olivia nodded. Then you won't mind if we expand the financial record. Grant's attorney snapped. We've already done discovery. Olivia lifted a folder, thick, tabbed, organized like a weapon built from paper. Discovery is only as complete as the truth provided, and Mr. Whitmore's disclosures were incomplete. The courtroom leaned in. Judge Klein's eyes narrowed. Explain. Olivia's voice softened into something almost polite. Mr. Whitmore has been moving funds through vendor contracts, inflated invoices, and a subsidiary account not previously disclosed. He has also attempted to transfer marital assets to Ms. Chloe Marin. Chloe's head snapped up. What? Grant's face went pale for the first time. Grant's attorney sputtered. That is an outrageous accusation. Olivia slid a document toward the clerk. Exhibit A, a series of payments labeled consulting to an entity registered 2 months ago with Ms. Marin listed as beneficiary. Chloe's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Grant leaned forward, voice sharp. That's business. Olivia's gaze finally landed on him, cold and precise. Then you'll have no problem explaining it under oath. Judge Klein's gavel tapped. Mr. Whitmore, you will answer the questions. Grant swallowed. For the first time, he looked at Elena like she wasn't nothing. He looked at her like she was a threat. And Elena, calm behind her new counsel, opened her folder and placed the sealed envelope in Olivia's hands, quietly, like passing a match in a room full of gasoline. Olivia didn't open the sealed envelope yet. She set it beside her folder like a promise. Mr. Whitmore, she began, you testified that you are the primary caregiver for your son. Grant lifted his chin. I am. Olivia nodded. Name his teacher. Grant blinked. What? His teacher, Olivia repeated, voice smooth. The person you claim you coordinate with as primary caregiver. Grant's eyes flicked toward Elena, a flash of panic. Mrs. Daniels. Elena's lips pressed together. Olivia didn't react. Interesting, because Noah's teacher is Mr. Daniel Ortiz. A ripple of whispers. Grant's attorney rose quickly. Your Honor. Judge Klein held up her hand. Sit down. Olivia continued. Name his pediatrician. Grant's jaw flexed. Dr. Patel. Olivia nodded, then flipped a tab. Noah's pediatrician is Dr. Liao. Dr. Patel is your physician. The courtroom shifted again, this time with a different kind of energy. The quiet thrill of watching arrogance fail basic tests. Grant's face reddened. This is petty. Olivia's tone stayed calm. Custody isn't petty, Mr. Whitmore, it's your child. Grant's attorney tried to object again, but Judge Klein's stare pinned him in place. Olivia moved to finances. You testified Mrs. Whitmore has no meaningful income. Yes, Grant snapped, she doesn't. Olivia nodded as if agreeing. Then the court should find it alarming that you attempted to route money through accounts you didn't disclose. Would you like to explain why you did not include Whitmore Logistics subsidiary account 14B in your financial statement? Grant's eyes widened. What are you talking about? Olivia slid a statement forward. Account ending 14B, listed under Whitmore Logistics. Not the marital accounts you disclosed, but funded from marital revenue streams. Grant's attorney's face drained of color as he scanned it. Grant's voice rose. That's corporate, not marital. Olivia nodded. Corporate revenue paid for your family's mortgage, your vacations, your household staff, and she flipped another page. For a condominium lease in Ms. Marin's name. Chloe's breath caught. Grant! Grant snapped his head toward her, eyes hard. Not now. Olivia's voice became colder. Mr. Whitmore, you used marital resources to support an affair, then tried to paint your wife as unstable while seeking custody. Do you understand how that looks? Grant's hands curled into fists. You're twisting. Olivia leaned in slightly. No, we're documenting. Judge Klein's pen moved steadily. Proceed. Olivia turned a page. Now let's discuss the settlement offer you pressured Mrs. Whitmore to sign. You offered her a small check and restricted access to her child, correct? Grant's nostrils flared. She's exaggerating. Olivia lifted a printed email. Your words, sign it or I'll bury you. Sent from your personal email at 1:12 a.m. Grant's mouth opened, then closed. Olivia didn't let him breathe. And you told this court she has no resources, yet you were terrified she might hire counsel. Why? Grant's voice turned sharp, defensive. Because she's vindictive. Olivia's eyes narrowed. Or because you knew what she could uncover. Grant leaned forward, voice dripping with contempt. She's been playing a business for years. She can't uncover anything. She's not capable. Olivia's face stayed blank. but her hand moved to the sealed envelope. "Elena," Grant said, turning to his wife like he could still intimidate her. Tell her you're nothing, tell her you're—" Elena's voice was quiet. "Stop," Grant scoffed. "Or what?" Olivia finally opened the envelope. She pulled out a letter on crisp, heavyweight paper, and as she lifted it, even the judge leaned in. Olivia handed it to the clerk. "Your Honor, we submit this as Exhibit B." Judge Klein looked at it, eyes narrowing as she read the header. Her expression changed, subtly but unmistakably. Grant's attorney whispered, "What is that?" Olivia spoke clearly for the record. "A notice of acquisition." Grant's smile vanished completely. Olivia turned toward him. "Mr. Whitmore, you've been telling this court your wife is dependent. You've been laughing at her work." Grant's voice cracked slightly. "What are you doing?" Olivia held up the letter, her tone steady and devastating. "I'm showing the court what her work has been doing while you were busy humiliating her." The courtroom went silent. Olivia read the first line aloud, and Grant Whitmore's world began to tilt. Olivia's voice didn't rise, it didn't need to. Every word landed like a verdict. "This letter is from Meridian Holdings Group," Olivia said, "informing Whitmore Logistics of a completed purchase of controlling interest." Grant stared as if the paper was a hallucination. That's impossible." Olivia continued, precise. "Meridian Holdings has acquired 61% of Whitmore Logistics voting shares through a series of transactions completed over the last 90 days. Grant's attorney snapped his head toward Grant. 90 days? Grant's throat worked. "I would know if—" Olivia cut in smoothly. "Would you? Your company has been struggling with cash flow, Mr. Whitmore. You borrowed against receivables. You took private debt. You signed covenants you didn't read because you assumed you'd always be in control." Grant's face drained of color. "Who is Meridian?" Olivia's eyes flicked to Elena, then back to Grant. "Meridian is Mrs. Whitmore's company." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was shocked. A woman in the gallery gasped audibly. Chloe's hand flew to her mouth. Grant's attorney looked like he might physically fall out of his chair. Grant's voice came out rough. "That's a lie." Elena finally stood, her posture straight, her voice calm. "It's not." Grant pointed at her, shaking. You can't." Elena's eyes held him like a mirror. "You laughed at my work." Grant turned desperately toward Judge Klein. "Your Honor, she's hiding assets. She deceived me." Judge Klein's face was still, but her eyes were sharp. "Mr. Whitmore, the issue before this court is marital equity, custody, and credibility. If Mrs. Whitmore's assets exist, we will address disclosure. But you will not turn your own misrepresentation into outrage." Grant's voice rose, nearly cracking. "She pretended to be nothing." Elena's tone stayed even. "I didn't pretend, you decided." Olivia stepped forward again. "Your Honor, to be clear, Mrs. Whitmore's ownership predates the marriage. Her structure was designed for privacy. It was not illegal, and it was not marital fraud. But Mr. Whitmore's attempt to hide funds and punish her through custody is very relevant." Grant's attorney finally found his voice. "This acquisition, this is a corporate matter, not family court." Olivia nodded. "Except Mr. Whitmore's entire argument is financial superiority and stability. He built his case on the claim that Mrs. Whitmore is helpless. That claim is false. And the court now has reason to suspect Mr. Whitmore manipulated financial disclosures precisely because he believed she would never have the resources to challenge him." Grant snapped, "She did this to ruin me." Elena looked at him, and for the first time her voice carried something sharper than calm, something earned. "No, I did it to stop you." Grant's brow furrowed. "Stop me from what?" Elena took a breath. "From draining your company before the divorce, from moving money into Chloe's name, from stripping Noah's future to punish me." Chloe whispered, barely audible, "Grant, what did you do?" Grant turned on her, eyes blazing. "Stay out of this." Judge Klein's gavel came down once, hard. "Enough." Grant flinched. Judge Klein looked at Elena. "Mrs. Whitmore, are you telling the court you acquired controlling interest in your husband's company during the marriage?" Elena nodded. "My holding group did." "And why?" Elena's eyes didn't leave the judge. "Because I saw the financial moves. Because I realized he was going to burn everything down and blame me for the smoke." Grant's voice broke. "You spied on me." Elena's answer was quiet. "I protected myself and my child." Olivia added, "Your Honor, we have a forensic report prepared. We also have a witness from Whitmore Logistics Board." Grant's head snapped up. "The board!" As if summoned by the words, a man in a dark suit stood from the back row and approached the aisle. Older, stern, unmistakably corporate. He faced the judge. "Your Honor, my name is Samuel Reyes. I am the interim chair of Whitmore Logistics." Grant's mouth fell open. "Interim?" Reyes didn't look at him with anger. He looked at him with disappointment. "Mr. Whitmore is no longer CEO." Grant's breath hitched like he'd been punched. Reyes continued, voice steady. "As of 9 a.m. this morning, by board vote, Mr. Whitmore was removed." Grant staggered to his feet. "You can't do that!" Judge Klein snapped, "Mr. Whitmore, sit down." Grant didn't. His hands shook as he pointed at Elena. "This is your fault." Elena's voice cut through, controlled and clear. "No, Grant. This is the cost of thinking you could humiliate me into surrender." Grant's eyes were wild now, no longer confident, no longer amused. He looked around the courtroom like it had become a trap. Because it had. And the person who built it had been sitting quietly across from him the whole time. Grant sat down slowly, like his body finally realized the room wasn't his anymore. Judge Klein's gaze was steady. "Miss Kane, you mentioned a forensic report." Olivia nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. We retained a forensic accountant after reviewing irregularities in Mr. Whitmore's disclosures." Grant's attorney protested weakly. "Your Honor, we haven't had time." Judge Klein's voice was sharp. "You had time to bring accusations and humiliation. You'll have time to face facts." Olivia called the forensic accountant to summarize findings. The words were clinical, but the meaning was brutal. Hidden accounts, inflated vendor contracts, transfers disguised as business expenses, and a clear pattern of moving funds in anticipation of divorce. Grant kept shaking his head like denial could rewrite numbers. Then Olivia turned toward the most poisonous part of the case, custody. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, "you claimed Mrs. Whitmore is unstable, that she cannot provide stability. Yet you attempted to remove funds from accounts used to pay for your child's school." Grant snapped, "That's not true." Olivia lifted a document. "Payment attempt returned. Because Meridian Holdings acquired the receivable stream and froze the transfer pending audit." Grant looked at Elena like he wanted to hurt her with words again, but the words didn't come, not when the room could see his fear. Elena stood, voice quiet but firm. "You wanted Noah so you could punish me." Grant's voice cracked. "I wanted him because you lied to me for years." Elena's eyes softened for half a second, then hardened again. "You didn't want the truth. You wanted someone smaller than you." Grant turned to Judge Klein, desperation spilling out. "Your Honor, she married me under false pretenses. She hid an entire company." Judge Klein's tone stayed even. "Mrs. Whitmore's premarital assets are not automatically marital. Hiding is not the same as fraud. But your financial disclosures, those are sworn statements. If they are false, that is contempt." Grant swallowed hard. Olivia stepped forward. "Your Honor, we're requesting sanctions for non-disclosure. A revised temporary order for custody with primary placement to Mrs. Whitmore, supervised visitation pending further review, and an order to prevent Mr. Whitmore from dissipating assets." Grant shot up again, furious. "Supervised? Are you kidding me?" Judge Klein's gavel struck. "Sit down." Grant sat. Chloe, who had been silent, watching her own fantasy crumble, whispered, "Grant, you told me you were in control." Grant snapped, "Shut up!" The judge's eyes narrowed. "Ms. Marin, if you have knowledge of financial transfers or attempts to hide assets, you may be called as a witness." Chloe's face went pale. She looked at Grant like she was seeing him for the first time, and realizing she had been used too. Elena didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She looked tired, hurt, but unbroken. Judge Klein reviewed the documents again, then spoke words that changed everything. "Mr. Whitmore, based on the evidence presented today, I find probable cause that you intentionally failed to disclose assets and attempted to transfer marital funds for personal benefit." Grant's voice was barely audible. "No," Judge Klein continued. "Temporary primary custody will remain with Mrs. Whitmore. Mr. Whitmore will have visitation under the terms outlined by the court until further hearings. Additionally, I am ordering a financial restraining order, effective immediately." Grant's attorney leaned toward him, whispering urgently, but Grant's eyes were locked on Elena, angry, wounded, and now afraid. Elena finally spoke, not to the judge, not to Olivia, but to Grant. "You laughed at my work," she said. "You said I was nothing without you." Grant's voice rasped. "You did this to destroy me." Elena shook her head once. "I did this to survive you." Judge Klein looked at the clock. We will reconvene for final determinations, but let me be clear, this court will not reward cruelty. Grant's hands trembled, because he could feel it now, the shift in power, the way the room had turned. He came to court to humiliate his wife, and instead he had humiliated himself. The final hearing came fast, because once lies are exposed, the court doesn't move slowly out of politeness. Grant arrived different. No Chloe, no smug grin. His suit still fit, but the confidence didn't. He sat beside his attorney with shoulders tight and eyes hollow, like a man realizing his name alone wouldn't save him. Elena arrived with Olivia Kane, calm, controlled, not triumphant, resolved. Judge Klein opened the session with a quiet intensity. We are here to finalize custody, support and division. The court has reviewed the forensic report, witness statements, and supplemental filings. Grant's attorney tried a final angle. Your Honor, Mrs. Whitmore's concealment. Judge Klein stopped him. Counsel, we are not rewriting reality. Your client lied under oath. Your client attempted to hide assets. Your client used custody as leverage. Grant clenched his jaw, but he didn't interrupt. Olivia spoke clearly. Your Honor, Mrs. Whitmore is not seeking vengeance. She is seeking safety and fairness. Judge Klein nodded. I can see that. Then she turned to Elena. Mrs. Whitmore, do you wish to address the court? Elena stood. For a moment she looked toward Grant, not with hatred, but with the exhausted clarity of someone who had carried the weight of being underestimated for too long. I didn't marry him for his money, she began. I didn't need it. I married him because I believed he could be kind when no one was watching. Grant's eyes flickered, pained. Elena continued, but when he thought I had no power, he used that. He mocked me, he cheated, he threatened to take my son. He tried to make me beg. Her voice tightened slightly, but she kept control. I won't beg. Not for dignity, not for my child. Judge Klein looked at Grant. Mr. Whitmore, do you have anything to say? Grant's mouth opened, and for a second it looked like the old arrogance might return. But it didn't. His voice came out smaller. She lied to me. Helena's eyes stayed on him. You never asked who I was. You only asked what you could take. Grant's face crumpled with anger and shame. You bought my company. Helena's voice was quiet. My company bought yours because you were bleeding it, because you were about to destroy your employees' jobs to punish me. Judge Klein's eyes narrowed. And now Whitmore Logistics? Elena answered carefully. Meridian installed new leadership. The company will continue operations, employees will be protected, contracts audited. Grant's attorney whispered furiously to him, but Grant stared at the table, trapped inside consequences. Judge Klein finally delivered the ruling. Custody. Primary physical custody to Mrs. Whitmore. Joint legal custody with Mr. Whitmore's visitation structured and monitored for compliance. Grant flinched. Spousal support. Denied to Mr. Whitmore. Any claim of dependency is not credible given the financial misconduct. Grant's attorney inhaled sharply. Asset division. The marital home will be sold. Proceeds divided with adjustments due to Mr. Whitmore's dissipation of marital assets. Mr. Whitmore is ordered to reimburse funds transferred to third parties. Chloe's name wasn't spoken, but everyone heard it anyway. Judge Klein's gaze hardened. Additionally, the court is referring the matter of Mr. Whitmore's false disclosures to the appropriate authorities. This is not optional. Grant's shoulders sagged. Then Judge Klein looked at Elena. Mrs. Whitmore, this court recognizes the emotional harm inflicted here. The court cannot undo it, but it can prevent it from continuing. Elena exhaled slowly, like she'd been holding her breath for months. Grant spoke suddenly, voice raw. So that's it, you win? Elena looked at him, and her answer was the final twist, not a victory speech, not cruelty, just truth. I didn't win, she said. I got free. Grant's eyes flashed with something broken. You let me look like a monster. Elena's voice stayed calm. You didn't need my help. Judge Klein's gavel came down. Court is adjourned. People stood. The room buzzed, but Elena didn't linger to absorb attention. She gathered her papers, nodded once at Olivia, and walked out. Outside, the winter air felt clean. Elena's phone buzzed. A message from Noah's school reminder, parent-teacher meeting tomorrow. Elena smiled faintly, a real smile, small but true. Behind her, inside the courthouse, Grant Whitmore sat with his head in his hands, the sound of his earlier laughter now replaced by something quieter, the silence of a man who underestimated the wrong person. And that was the lesson of this case. Don't confuse quiet with weak. Don't confuse kindness with surrender. And don't laugh at someone's work when you don't even know what they've built. If you stayed until the end, type justice in the comments so I know you made it through this courtroom storm. And if you want more intense stories where the truth hits like thunder, like the video, subscribe, and you'll be here for the next twist.